Well, welcome to Gideon's Tactical. I am your host, Aaron. Another amazing day out in the wilderness to be able to test out some gear for you. And we're looking at CRKT in collaboration with Ken Onion and a design by VoxNaz Knives. And have really liked some of the designs that he's come up with in the past. This is the HVAS folder from CRKT with field strip technology. This is the first video here on the channel where we have tested out this field stripping technology. We're going to go through it today. I'm really surprised that it's taken the knife community this long to come up with this idea of being able to take apart a knife, a pocket knife, and clean it out, you know, if it gets sand, gunk, mud, grit, whatever, and then put it back together without any tools in under 30 seconds. It's awesome that Ken Onion came up with the idea. CRKT has patented it, and now we have it. It's surprising it's taken the knife community and the designers and, you know, ideas out there this long to come up with it. But I'm really excited today to show you what this knife can do, what it can't do, where the value point is, what's cool about it, what are maybe some drawbacks, and really run through not only the design, but also the field stripping technology. So let's go ahead, break this folder down, and see what it can do.
All right, so let's see how this really does. I'm gonna totally cover this up. I would never want to do this with any of my other normal pocket knives, getting all kinds of grit and sand and dirt in all the mechanisms. This would really suck. Okay, so right now it's super gritty. You can see the locking mechanism didn't even want to fully engage. I mean, that would be bad, and then I would, you know, have to get tools out and just be a super big pain in the neck. So now, with that having happened, let's go ahead and put that lever up, spin the wheel, and take this guy all apart here. There we go. And we're just going to rinse it out. And we're going to put it all back together. Normally I'd let it dry out probably for a few more minutes if I had the opportunity, but just for the demo here, I'm going to see how this all works. There we go. Boom. Locking mechanisms there, nice and smooth now. Everything's functional. So, I mean, it definitely works. It does its job, which is pretty sweet. All right, let's go ahead and hit this folder here and really talk about the blade shape, the blade design, you know, and the steel that they've chosen. I want to talk about that because, you know, the field stripping technology, that's great, but I mean, if the knife doesn't perform, you know, who cares? I mean, all you have is a party trick. So what we're looking at here with this design is really awesome. VoxNaz, I believe I'm pronouncing his name right, I think is an awesome designer. I think he does a great job. I really gravitate to his designs in general, and this just is such a simple, functional design, and that's why I wanted to purchase this knife. And so what we're looking at here is that really nice massive belly into a mild swedge, just giving it great aesthetics, into a solid stout blade being 0.13 maximum thickness that's compensated by a very high hollow grind. So it's going to be a wicked slicer. I would have preferred, you know, maybe like 0.1, you know, or 0.2 and then a saber grind on there. But for what it is, you know, it's a cost-cutting measure, you know, to do a hollow grind. And I think it's doable. And I think for how the knife performed, I don't really have any complaints with that. Now, from the handle to the tip, we're looking at about 3.375. Actual cutting edge is about 3 inches with that pretty large ricasso. It's not finger choil size. So I would have liked to either have that dialed back a little bit or made into a full finger choil. It's kind of this waste of space, in my opinion. Right there, I would have liked to be just a little closer to the blade. A wicked 90-degree spine, so this thing is going to launch sparks. Was really happy with that. So again, that concept of kind of a backup pocket knife, field knife, I think it would absolutely do that. It is a launcher of sparks, which is pretty sweet. So, and just the blade shape itself really connected well with me and performed really well. As you're seeing with a lot of the footage that we're rolling in, regardless if it was doing food prep, because I think a lot of you would be doing food prep. I did a lot of testing with that, was really happy with that. And the steel that they have gone with, the 1.4116, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in detail in a moment, is very stain resistant. So, you know, food isn't going to stain it, and, you know, rust, it's going to take a long time for rust to show up on it. It's going to be really easy to clean up in that regard. you know, man-made materials of every kind, regardless if it was cordage, regardless if it was harder materials like rubber, tons and tons of cardboard slicing, as well as bushcraft. Did some simple, you know, carving. It would absolutely do a great feather stick for you in that regard, and, you know, do some notching and those type of things. And really want to kind of go back to the cardboard and talk now about the actual steel itself. The 1.4116 steel, it's a German steel. I've used it mostly on cold steel knives, and I've had mixed results. The cold steel, I believe it was like the Pro Light that I tested, was terrible. Maybe it was just a bad heat treat. And then the cold steel Fin Hawk was much better. The edge retention seemed to work a lot better for me. Yeah, it's not my favorite steel. I'm not jumping up and down like, yay, they chose that. And, you know, for the price point that we'll talk about in a moment, I wish they had gone with something else. I'll put it that way. Is it doable? Yeah, it's doable. It's got a Rockwell of like 55 to 57, which is about the Rockwell that you're gonna find on like Rat Model 1s and Rat Model 2s from Ontario with AUS 8. You're gonna find that with a lot of like SE's overseas produced AUS 8 knives. They're gonna be around in that Rockwell range. And those are usually around $30 knives. And we'll talk again price point here in a little bit. I did a ton of cardboard testing and a ton of work with this knife. It is super easy to get an edge back on it, so field sharpening is a breeze. And I mean, I'm talking like a couple strokes with a ceramic rod and you'll get shaving sharp. And is it doable? Yeah, it's okay. It's about like HCR13 MOV. Expect to see similar results to HCR13 MOV. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and hit price. I paid $57.50, you know, $58 basically for this CRKT. And we're gonna have links in the description below over to Amazon and Blade HQ, not only for this CRKT, for all of CRKT's other field stripping technology knives, and also the other competitive options I'm gonna run in here for you today. So thank you so much for using the hyperlinks. Without you guys using those hyperlinks, you know, I would not be able to get out here, purchase the gear that we do to do these type of videos, and the channel would cease to be what it is. So thank you so much for helping to make this be the channel that it is through your guys' support and using those Blade HQ and Amazon hyperlinks. So that's really what I want to touch on, is basically, in my opinion, now that we've looked at the material, the blade material, the field stripping technology, everything about it, really, I feel like this is about a $30 knife with another $30 of technology. They want you to pay an extra $30 for the field stripping technology. There's about 25 bucks, you know, that if you take away that ability and you just gave me this knife with these materials, I would say I'm not going to pay more than 25, 30 bucks for this knife. So you need to keep that in consideration, that if you don't really see value in the field stripping technology, there's a lot of other options out there that are going to do better for you for about 60 bucks, including, just to kick us off here, the Spyderco Polestar, Chinese made BD1 steel, G10 handle, you know, 4-way directional pocket clip, liner lock, about the same size, coming in between 55, 60 bucks. This is a great option. Another option for about 42 bucks would be the D2 version of the steel wheel cut jack. Very similar, you know, 2-way directional pocket clip, liner lock, much better steel. Gonna save yourself 20 bucks and gonna be about the same size range. D2 version of the Rat Model 1, same kind of idea there, about 40 bucks. And you're gonna save yourself, you know, $18 to $20. You won't have the field stripping technology, but you're gonna have better steel, and it's gonna be a very similar performing knife in the sense of handle ergonomics, pocket clip options, blade shape and size. And just to kind of fulfill that again, that concept, so here's the CRKT Directive, great kind of do everything. We call it a suck knife over here, sport utility knife, can do kind of everything for you. Chinese 8CR 14 MOV steel, liner lock, you know, 4-way directional pocket clip. This is going to be about 28 to 30 bucks. I would put these kind of in the same range, you know, of performance. So that's really, without the field stripping technology, again, that's what I would pay for this guy up here. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and hit the handle. It does feel a little cheap. It's glass reinforced nylon, and we'll talk about that with price here in a little bit. But you do have a little bit of that texturing there. I really like how natural the lines are. There's no crazy jimping. There's nothing that would cause any sort of pain. That's part of the reason why I gravitated to purchasing this one as the first field stripping technology from CRKT knife I wanted to review, because the handle seemed very natural and contoured to me. It's 4.5 inches long. It's going to be 1/2 inch wide at its maximum thickness, and it's going to have really good machining all the way around. It's going to come in at a great weight for this size of knife with all the tech going into it. You know, like there's moving parts, and that could weigh it down, you know, if they weren't really conscientious of it. This comes in at 3.8 ounces, so under 4 ounces, which is always great. Really good guard there, keeps you locked into place, feels really good in the hand. I got large size gloves, as you guys know. Just feels very natural in the hand. I really like that a lot. And doesn't really cause any hot spots at all. And just because of the way the contouring and the 1/2 inch thick, this is on the verge of being a really good crossover that you could use as like an outdoor knife, because it is pretty full and it's rounded and it's not clunky and square. It doesn't feel blocky to me, but you can still EDC it every day around town. So if you are considering like an outdoor, field knife, for your pocket knives, you want to use it for outdoor stuff, but you also want to EDC it around town. We've done a video on this. Those knives that we did in that best outdoor folders, those are all really good for outdoors, but I wouldn't EDC most of those around town. They're just too fat and rounded. This one could be that kind of crossover for you, just in how they've done the handle. But zero complaints with the handle. Really feels good in the hand, warm to the touch, and makes it a lightweight knife as well. You can even hold this kind of in like reverse, bushcraft grips, and really, really go to town if you want to, and you're not going to have any hot spots for an extended cutting task with this folder. So we'll look at lockup and deployment. Now you can see here that the blade is slightly off center. It's not rubbing, and it has never rubbed on either side, and I've been playing with this thing a lot. So no real issues with the design in that regard, and particularly for, an Asian produced, knife that also has this moving pivot and everything that we're looking at today. Don't mind GT Jr. adding little aspects to the video, given his little flair already. But we're going to look here at the deployment. You got that notch that works really well. I can easily engage this, particularly with cold weather gloves on. For me, that's a big selling point for an outdoor folder, is if I can't open and close it, open it and then disengage the lock with my gloves on, and I have to take my gloves off every time I use it, I'm probably not going to carry it when I'm out there in the woods, and this thing I could easily do that with. So the deployment, even though it is on Teflon bushings, is super, super smooth. It reminds me a lot of my Rat Model 1. In that regard, I would have liked to see bronze, but for Teflon, they are some of the fastest Teflon bushings I have seen. Very smooth, very quick deployment. Doesn't feel gritty or gunky in any way, shape, or form when I do that. Then we look here at the liner lock. You can see a really good solid liner lock that's hitting right there, 50% of the blade, zero complaints. And there's just a little bit of wobble right and left, and none up and down. Really solid. So again, for the moving, parts in here and the stripping and taking apart and putting back together, I have zero complaints with not only the deployment, but then also the lockup and how they chose to go with that liner lock. It's very easy to disengage and feels good in the hand even when you bear down on it. So zero complaints with the overall deployment and lockup for what this knife is. So deep ride, tip up, right or left, fully ambidextrous pocket clip. CRKT is getting it right. They're getting it figured out. Some of their older designs, that would be like tip down only, maybe only one option, very, very nice to see that. And GT Jr. agrees with this little add in here. But a large loop over, so it's going to fit over like those thicker, tactical belts that have reinforced lips and those type of things. Easy to get it over. It definitely has some flex there, but I was hiking, with this thing on this particular video series that we're doing, and never wanted to pop out of my pocket or anything like that. The screws have been recessed in. There's a nice cut in here, not only to access the screws, but if you did want to run a lanyard through there, since there is no designated lanyard hole, and then again, obviously right or left. So for a righty, makes it super easy, but for a lefty as well, they've done a really good job so that boom, and that's my less dominant hand, I can easily work the knife. So for those of you who are lefties out there, I think you're really going to like the pocket clip options as well as us righties. So there you have it, folks. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If the field stripping technology makes sense to you, then I think this is an awesome, option. I would really like to see this technology being applied to just knives with a little higher quality steel in the future. And as long as it's under 100 bucks, and they're using maybe 154 cm, D2 as long as it's heat treated well, Sandvik, 14C, 28N, any of those type of steels down the line, and charging us between $80 and $100 for this type of technology. If it makes sense to you, I think it's an awesome option. For a lot of you, it's just a cool thing to have. Even for me myself here in the woods, as we talked about,
I've never yet had to, you know, clean out my knives. Only when I went to Moab did I find that I had some grit and sand in them. But it just depends on your location, whether or not the field stripping technology is worth the price point. So I hope that this video has helped you guys out decide whether or not this system and this knife fits into what you're looking for and how you're wanting to deploy your folders and EDC pocket knives. So I want to thank you so much for coming over here today and checking out the channel. Please subscribe, comment, like, share this video. Love to hear you guys' thoughts. Any questions you have, I'll answer in the comments below. If you're not a regular subscriber here at Gideon's Tactical, I invite you to become part of the GT family. We're throwing up stuff like this every single week, and you regular subscribers are awesome. Thank you so much for your continued support. And finally, always remember, stay equipped, stay prepared, and we'll see you out there.